Hey friends, Kelly here. Today I'm working in a traveler's notebook and I'm actually working on a challenge. So I am a patron for Dearly Dee's Patreon page, and she had put out a challenge to us to make a spread or a project using just bits and pieces out of our scrap bin. So that is what I'm doing. So first thing I did was I pulled out my scrap bin, and I am not making you watch me go through the whole thing. It's actually not that big, but it was kind of boring, so I edited that out. What I did find were all of these branding strips. I have started collecting the branding strips from 12 by 12 papers, and I have a lot of them because I just recently bought a ton of paper on clearance. Well, recent, before, where we're at today. And I saved them because of the beautiful patterns on all of them, and they coordinate and they come in handy. The other thing I pulled out are these kind of printer rejects. There's dot, grid, and line papers that I have created myself and I keep on hand, and these were in my scrap bin. Excuse me. I also pulled out these 3x3 cards that I had left over from, I believe it was a Studio Calico mystery kit, and I just never really knew where to put them, so they live in the scrap bin. So the first thing I'm going to do to get this page started is go ahead and trim down all of these branding strips. And I did do a little bit of planning in that I kind of did a rough measurement here just to make sure that I wasn't going to have a lot of wasted paper. And I kind of already knew it would work out, a 12-inch scrap divided by 4 inches, that should be good enough, but I double checked. So I go ahead and I cut all of these apart. I also cut this pink strip thinking that maybe that's what I'll use for journaling. And I've pulled a few other pieces out, and I'm going to play around with those. Now this piece is actually from a Pink Fresh Studio Office Hours 12 by 12 sheet that I have. I only have the one sheet, so I kind of want to make sure I use every bit. And I thought that ruler piece might work well with the story I'm telling. I also cut down some of this grid paper. As of this point in the process, I'm thinking that's going to be my background, and just in case I need extra strips or want to tie it in, I've cut some of that down. So the story behind this photo is that my good friend from high school, who was also my hairstylist, had posted that morning on Instagram like a meme about what's your hair look like right now, and one of the options was Hagrid, and that's exactly how I feel right now. My hair is just so bushy and big. I had taken this picture to show her, and then Dee had posted this challenge, and I thought, how perfect. I have a photo I took today. If I don't use it now, I never will. I don't typically do things in a current manner. So I decided to go ahead and use this challenge as motivation to just get something down into my book. So next I'm going to go ahead and layer all of these strips that I've cut out. And I went ahead and I started taping them down, and I do edit this out because it's kind of boring to watch me fiddle with these. I taped a few down, and then I went in and I decided I better make sure I have enough to accomplish what I want. I want them to go all the way up the page, and I want them to have enough variance so that there's no patterns that match that are on top of each other. So I've gone ahead and I've already done that, and I know I have exactly how many I need, and I just go ahead and tape them all down. I didn't exactly follow any certain pattern. I just wanted to make sure that whatever was resting on top or bottom of the next strip didn't compete too much, and also gave your eye a little bit of gave your eye something different to look at. I end up not using any of the grid pieces because I really loved how the colors all just lined up on top of each other. I had to trim a little bit of the ends off, which I was happy to have to trim versus not having them go all the way to the edge and look funny. So measuring them 4 inches actually worked out just fine. I needed that little bit of gutter space there in the middle for the book to be able to close. Now, I had a bunch of these 3x3 cards. I pulled out a few that had a sentiment that kind of made me think it would be a good title for the story. The story being that my hair is just getting bigger instead of longer. And I have this little ruler strip that I really wanted to use, but it just didn't fit in with the rest of the spread. A couple of the other title cards I had was me, which I end up using. Another one said blah, which doesn't quite reflect exactly how I feel about this. To me, this is more comical that my hair is just out of control. So I end up using the me card, and I drew some guidelines on there so that I could kind of space things out. I want to mimic what I have going on the left side with the strips, and I'm wanting to do that with my journaling. So I take this card, and I like how it's from the same collection of the Oh Baby, It's a Wild World. So the color matches and the texture in the card, it's a flat card, but you can see it's got like a watercolor texture kind of. So I'm going to use that, and like I said, I drew some guidelines with a pencil, and I just went in and erased those to get them out of the way. I also changed out that grid paper for the line paper. I felt like it made more sense to go with the lines that the patterns have created versus a grid kind of competed too much. So I swapped that out. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down into the book. And again, I want to make sure I leave myself that little bit of a gutter in the middle. Now, like I said, that these the grid, the line, and the dot papers are ones that I use often, and I tend to print quite a few at a time. I've actually created a free printable for you. If you head over to my blog, which I've linked below, you'll be able to go ahead and grab that freebie. And I just included the line and the grid, and at some point I might throw the dot pattern out there as well. But personally, I find myself going to the grid and the line most, and conveniently you can fit 2 on a page. So go ahead and grab that freebie. So I had put the card down, and again, I had the idea of maybe separating the card out to create that effect of the staggered lines. And at first I thought maybe I'd try it without it, and then I go back to the idea of staggering them. So I've gone ahead and cut the card down, and then I realized I don't quite have enough space. So I'm going to fiddle with the picture and pull it off and move it up a little bit. As you can see, I ripped the paper a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to be covering it up. The other thing about these papers that I print, I like to print them onto just a copy paperweight. That way it's not adding a lot of bulk into my book. And for the most part, that seems to work just fine. I haven't really run into any issues with stamping. I don't do a ton of stamping lately in my traveler's notebook, so it hasn't been an issue. This particular page is on cardstock, however. Next thing I'm going to do to finish this off is I'm just going to grab my souffle pens out, and I've decided to just pull this gray. It's not quite charcoal. When it dries, it's a little bit more of a gray color. I'm going to pull that out, and I'm also going to pull out my white souffle pen. And I'm just going to go through and add in some dots just to give it a little bit of dimension. I love to use these souffle pens and also glaze pens because it gives it dimension without adding too much bulk. The other option I would use is maybe an enamel dot, but for this purpose, it worked great. Of course, it was very difficult to rein myself in to stop putting dots down, but I decide, okay, we're done. We need to put the pen down. So this challenge was super fun. It gave me motivation. It made me sit down at my desk and do something current, which is very rare for me. And I really love how this all came together. And it was really great to just go ahead and use up some scraps from my scrap bin. And of course I have plenty in the scrap bin left over. So I foresee myself doing this challenge again. So thanks for watching. And if you liked this video, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. And then finally, hit that little bell so you're getting notifications of when new videos are posted. Thanks again, friends, and I'll see you next time.